Hi, I'm Rex Crandell, and today I'm going to be talking about how to apply for an employer identification number for a trust, generally an estate planning trust. The employer identification number is something like a social security number for an entity. It's also called a taxpayer identification number, TIN. The other, it's just normally referred to as an EIN most of the time. And the purpose of this is to get a bank account in the name of the trust and for tax reporting purposes. I point out that you do not get one of these if you just formed a revocable trust. You do not get a federal ID number. This is only in the case where the person who made the trust passes away, and then the trust becomes irrevocable. And that at that time, the trust becomes a tax-paying entity on its own because the social security number of a decedent can no longer be used for any other purpose. So let's look at the application for an employer identification number. It's a Form SS4 from the IRS. It includes information for businesses and for trusts and for estates, a lot of different activities. So when we go through it, we kind of have to ignore irrelevant questions. This happens to be a paper form. You get it from the IRS, print it, and then send it in for the ID number. Our office has access to, we get these online for clients. And the first line of the application is the name of the legal entity. Well, at this point, we're not talking about the decedent. We're talking about the name of the trust as it says on page 1 of the trust. And the form has a left column of data request, basically for businesses and contact. We're going to skip that. And we're going to include the name of the trustee, the person's name, and then comma trustee, their address, city, state, zip, and they also want to know what county and state you're from. And then the name of the responsible party. It's the trustee again, with comma trustee listed in the on the line, identifying their title. Then line 7B will list the social security number of the trustee, so IRS can cross-check that. That person's responsible for filing the tax returns for the trust. And it asks, is it for a limited liability company? No. And then line 9A, we've got type of entity. Well, we'll check the box that says trust, TIN of grantor. Now, what they're asking for here is, okay, who was the individual that created the trust, put their assets in, and now they've passed away? We need to indicate their social security number here. A social security number stops at death and can never be used for any other purpose. All the bank accounts are usually closed, investment accounts. And then everything continues on when the trustee gets a new employer identification number to be able to open banks and manage assets. Line 10 is reason for applying. We have, it says created a trust. Now, it's not just that you created one, because you do a revocable trust in an estate plan, don't get one of these ID numbers now. It's only when the trust becomes irrevocable. So on the line, it says created a trust, specify type. And in this case, we'll put irrevocable, or revocable trust became irrevocable. The irrevocable is the key part here, because that's what creates a separate tax-paying entity. Line 11, what date did the business start? Well, we don't have a business, but what they're asking for is the date that the trust became irrevocable, which is the same date of death. Then line 12 wants to know when the accounting year is complete. and that is December, and that's for tax purposes. Now they want to know on line 13, the highest number of employees you expect. Well, we're not expecting any employees. So under agricultural, household, and other, we will list 0. Then line 15 wants to know are you going to start paying wages? I put N/A for not applicable. The next question, line 16, wants to know the principal activity of your business. Well, it's none of your business, but we're not applying for a business. And I'll check the box that says other specify, and I refer to it as an estate planning trust. Then they ask another question about what kind of merchandise do you sell or products produce? I put administration of trust assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries. Has this entity ever applied for an employer identification number before? No. Then there's a section for what's called a third party designee. That's not the trustee. That's if you want to appoint a third party to be able to access information and communicate with IRS, you could do that here. We're going to assume that's blank. You might assign your accountant or your attorney. Then you get under the oath, the penalty of perjury section. You type out your name and then comma trustee, and they want to know the applicant's telephone and fax number, and then you sign it and date it, send it into the IRS. I would send a copy of the death certificate with it, but and maybe a couple pages of the trust. And then you'll get back 2 pages showing the ID number, and then the IRS is going to say it on the letter that they're expecting an income tax return next April 15th. However, if there's less than $600 of income, then you don't have a requirement to file a tax return for the trust. So that's an overview of obtaining an employer identification number. If you have any questions or want to have some estate planning done, you please contact our office. I'll be happy to talk with you. Bye.